BC.
Well, the second half of 2025 began yesterday, which puts us just slightly over a year away from the pivotal 2026 general elections. The first half of the year has been marked by significant national conversations, including the enactment of the Cybersecurity and Cyber Crimes Act of 2025. The march talked about Constitutional of Zambia Amendment Bill number 7 of 2025, and sadly, the passing of Zambia's 60th Republican President, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Tonight, we reflect on these developments with our guest, Wynter Kabimba, who is President of the Economic Front. State Councillor Wynter Kabimba, always a pleasure to have you on our program.
Thank you, Mana, and good evening, viewers.
I'd like for us to begin off with the happenings in our country. Obviously, just last week into this week, we saw, Bill 7 being deferred by the President. Later on, in fact, just a day after, we saw that ruling by the Constitutional Court. You're on record, State Councillor Wynter Kabimba, of having advised government and President President Hakainde Hichilema to abandon the process of amending the Constitution before the 2026 general elections. So let's begin off with your thoughts from there.
Yeah, I think my views on that are still the same. What I did try to do was actually to say to government, listen, you have too many fronts, to open another front in form of the constitutional making process. What I tried to say was that can you work out the priorities? Okay, the major priority that I thought that government should be staying awake at night is actually the economy, okay, which doesn't seem to be delivering to the poor. Forget about the issue of the dollar kwacha rate, but the economy that keeps the majority of our people on the fringes of this society, on the fringes of this economy. That today, even as we are talking about anything that is happening economically, we still have the majority of our people that cannot afford 3 square meals a day. So the view I took, and I still take the same view, is that, look, whereas you may think that the economy, the Constitution is something that must be dealt with, surely, if you worked out your priorities, you come to realize that you need to fix the economy first. Fix it so that it becomes the economy of the people.
But just on that, Mr. Kabimba, the other argument that comes up when you talk about the urgency of the Constitution is that, we do have part of our Constitution that, if not looked at, will still bring us into a challenge where we still have to spend from our treasury. For example, this issue of by-elections, which has been proposed to be tackled through Bill 7. And if this gets to be worked on, the anticipation is that we'll be spending less on these by-elections. So doesn't that still tie to the economy and the revenue being spent?
Yeah. The problem with that argument is this, that if we did away with the by-elections, therefore we have a good economy. Therefore, the money saved from there will go a long way into resolving the problems of the economy. And that is not true. That is not true, because by-elections are budgeted for. Every year when the Honorable Minister of Finance presents his budget, there's a vote for by-elections. So to present an argument solely on the basis that we want to save money from by-elections and avoid addressing the issue of bread and butter for the poor, for the indigent of this country, still causes problems. Nobody is saying, nobody is saying that the Constitution is 100% and it doesn't need to be fixed. We all agree. The argument I have, and I think many out there, would be, can government work out its priorities? That's all.
Do you comment President Hakainde Hichilema for deferring this bill? He says that we need to have wider consultation.
Yes.
You support this cause?
Yes, I do. In fact, I want to say to him, well done. At least you acted like a leader and listened to the many voices of those that thought that this process should be deferred. And that's what a leader does. Even when he thinks that is 100% right, if the voices of the people that he governs, the people that he leads, are going in a different direction, then he must capitulate and go along with the people.
Do you think he still deserves that commendation when others are calling for him to withdraw it completely instead of making the deferment? Because if we make reference to the cyber laws, the Cyber Crimes Act and the Cyber Security Act, we saw a deferment initially after heavy resistance and rejections from some sections of society. But even after deferment, we saw these laws getting to be enacted. So do you think the deferment is sufficient for now?
Oh, I'll tell you what one lecturer at the university said, and if we have time, I'll give you a quick story here. The guy was a lecturer in philosophy at the University of Zambia, and one of his students in that class was Wynter Kabimba. And every time he came in to lecture, he started by hammering the philosophy of humanism. Okay, he says, no, this is just a philosophy. He was he had a doctorate in philosophy. Then he took a risk and decided to leave his job at UNZA and go to Papua New Guinea. When he got there after 2 years, they didn't renew his contract, so he came back. When he came back here, they couldn't enlist him at UNZA. So he wrote a letter to Keke. And Keke responded to him and said, I've read your letter and I can assure you that you'll be employed. Because he realized that he was not being employed because of his controversy over the philosophy of humanism in his lectures. 6 months later, he didn't get a job. So he wrote a letter, and this is this is what was interesting about his letter. And he says to Keke, I refer to your letter, Your Excellency, dated in which you promised me that, I was going to be employed. Then he said, since presidents don't lie, I'm sure I'll be employed. 3 days later, he got a letter of employment, a letter of appointing him as the lecturer back in UNZA. The point I'm making is that since presidents don't lie and HH is not supposed to lie, this deferment must be with a view of getting the majority or those of us that did not agree with the process and said it was exclusive to get us on board. So that at the end of the day, the whole process is not in futility. That's the point.
If I remember very vividly, when we sat with you for an interview some time back, you mentioned that if President Hakainde Hichilema, proceeds and goes ahead with this process, he risks losing the 2026 general elections. Do you still stand by that?
Yes, because you see, this process was very, very divisive. Even within his own party. I mean, we are politicians, so we mingle with everybody. There were people, including senior members of his party, that did not agree with him. The goodness is that, or maybe the badness in Africa is that people will be saying one thing to you as their leader and another thing behind your back. So this was going to be a very difficult process for him in terms of harnessing his political party so that it can fight the 2026 general election.
Another voice that has come out to be very prominent is that of John Sangwa. Because of this constitutional court judgment, and according to the judgment, government breached over 8 constitutional provisions in terms of them, doing the right thing in the process of amending this constitution. John Sangwa says that because there are over, 8 constitutional provisions that were breached, President Hakainde Hichilema doesn't deserve, another term because he's breached the constitution. What do you think of these thoughts?
I consider myself a politician. I'm not an academic. Okay? So I want to approach problems from a practical, political point of view. What do you do if you think that the president has breached the constitution?
You impeach him.
Exactly. There's a process. There's a process they are provided. So you go, you move that motion of impeachment if it marshals, the votes required, and then the process, is put in place.
Do you think he must be impeached?
We saw that with Trump. No. I'm saying if there are people that think that the president has impeached the constitution to the point where he is in breach of his oath of office, there's a process.
But I mean, you're a politician, and at the same time, you obviously have wealth of experience in the legal background. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts about what?
About what the Constitutional Court's position is with how how this particular process was handled regarding Bill 7. Because now people in the political space, others are calling for him to either resign or for the impeachment process to begin. What are your thoughts? Do you think he needs to be impeached, or do you think he needs to resign?
Listen, guys, let's be serious with life. This is a country. We are constructing a country. And because of that, we must be serious in whatever we say and do. Okay? If you are going to say, because this is a breach, and you know that there is a process, go and initiate that process. Go and initiate the process. And let's see if that process will get along with your views. That's what you do. I mean, this idea of just running headlines, in the print media and whatever, it's not going to help this country.
But do you think the president breached the Constitution?
I haven't read the Constitutional Court. I don't think that the issue before the court was whether or not the president has breached the Constitution. I don't think that was the issue before the court. I don't think that the judgment of the Constitutional Court was about whether or not HH has breached the Constitution. That was not the matter that the court was seized with. So let's deal with the matter that the court was seized with.
Because the process was illegal. The government relied on Article 79, whilst the Constitutional Court provided that there was a breach of over 8 constitutional provisions.
Yes, that's Article 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 61, 90, 91,
I'm agreeing.
And 92.
And also, we've seen that there's an appeal that has been made, by one Isaac Mwanza, going back to the Constitutional Court, that in fact government was right to have initiated this process. We'd like to find to get your thoughts, State Counsel Wynter Kabimba.
I want to be honest with you. I haven't read the judgment of the Constitutional Court. I haven't read the appeal from Isaac Mwanza. I mean, here you are. You already have 2 sides of the coin. You have one side where the Constitutional Court says there are breaches of the provisions of the Constitution, and you have Isaac Mwanza on another side who says that the government was right. But I want to make just one point. The point I want to make is that and I go back to this point, if there are people that think that the president has breached his oath of office or is in breach of the Constitution, well, that's what it means. They must approach Parliament and go and initiate the process and see whether or not the men and women in that house will agree with them.
Were you shocked when I know you haven't read, but when you heard that the Constitutional Court has ruled against government with this process, were you shocked?
No. In fact, the Constitutional Court has acquitted itself, and it has acquitted HH. Because the narrative all along and all the allegations were that, the Constitutional Court leans in favor of the executive. Oh no, the judiciary, is always on the side of the executive. Oh no, HH is tampering with with the judiciary. Those have been the allegations. So the fact that the Constitutional Court now has been able to deliver or hand down a judgment against the executive, it means the man is not tampering with the judiciary. It means the judiciary is independent. That's what it means.
With your experience
from this incident.
With your experience in politics, we saw that this deferment, at least the announcement of the deferment, came a day before the Constitutional Court judgment. Do you think this was coincidence? That the announcement of the deferment came a day before the Constitutional Court judgment?
Others argue that perhaps the president had sight of the judgment, or perhaps he was hinted that this is going to come, and so to save yourself the embarrassment, defer the bill.
I mean, look, maybe that is correct, guys. I'm not a member of the executive.
But as an experienced politician,
I haven't or gotten, any information on the, on that roadmap, how the developments rolled out. So, and I don't want to comment over something that I don't know. And I don't think that we are going back to Kwame Nkrumah's days, who dismissed the Supreme Court. And when he was asked why he has done so, he says, I have not dismissed the judges because they gave judgment against the government. I've dismissed them because they didn't inform me about the judgment in advance.
You speak of the separation of powers, independence of the judiciary. Let's look at the legislature.
Yes.
Just yesterday, we did see members of parliament from the Patriotic Front walking out of the National Assembly, and there are concerns around the conduct of the Speaker, who they feel has not conducted herself fairly in the House. What do you make of this ordeal? In fact, let's start off with the Speaker of the National Assembly herself. What do you make of her role and her conduct from the time she assumed this position?
I always avoid discussing personalities, especially at public fora like this, where the speaker is not present. I think it's not fair. But walking out of parliament is one of the tools used by the opposition to protest against a ruling, against the conduct by the speaker, against the manner in which one of their members has been treated. It is normal. The UPND used to walk out of parliament during PF. So what is so strange, when PF walks out?
What is so strange is this.
Yeah.
Just in case you didn't follow parliamentary proceedings yesterday, yes. This were actual actual words. This was when the members of parliament were debating why
Mr. Malsampa is not being recognized as leader of the opposition in the National Assembly.
No.
The speaker said, the same way you are exhibiting disorderly conduct is the same way you are exhibiting disorderly conduct in your party.
Yeah. Put
your house in order. Don't you think the speaker could have gone overboard?
Yeah, of course, she crossed the red line. I saw that video or clip on my phone, on social media. I didn't think that it was necessary for her to have made that comment. I think it was made in bad taste.
Others argue that, she was just speaking the truth, and that's what is currently prevailing within the Patriotic Front.
Yes, but you see, that is, she now got into, the realm of partisanship. Okay? I don't think she has a right to comment on the internal affairs of any political party that is represented in the House or that is not represented in the House. So I think she certainly crossed the red line. Well, I saw that. And I said to myself when I saw it in the evening that this is made in bad taste.
And speaking still on the independence of these organs of government and still on the legislature, the other argument that's coming through from the Patriotic Front is that at the time Mr. Malsampa became president of the party and we saw Mr. Robert Chavinga being appointed as leader of opposition of the party, the speaker was quite quick to recognize Mr. Robert Chavinga as leader of the opposition in the National Assembly, despite ongoing court issues around that. And the argument now is that Mr. Malsampa is the one who has been chosen by those in the opposition in the House as the leader of the opposition, but there's a delay in having him be recognized here. And that's why they feel she's not conducting herself impartially.
Look, I think in all fairness, the PF would be doing everybody in this country a favor if they resolved their issues first and foremost internally. I think so. They have gone to court, they've come out of court, they've got this faction and this faction. So my appeal to my former political party is please do sit down, find a leader, get to the general conference, find a leader and put your house in order. Because if the PF doesn't do that, it will keep on getting into this acrimonious debate with the other people that may also react in a different way. So PF must put its house in order. I think the onus is on PF to see to it that its house is in order.
They argue and they have lamented that in their process of trying to do that, they are being frustrated and they're accusing the government, who have denied any involvement, but they accuse the government of having a hand and getting involved. When they go to registrar societies, they are not being well attended to. They accuse the UPND of sponsoring some of the factions within the party. So they make strong accusations towards the government of the day of having a hand, and that is what is making it difficult for them to put their house in order.
Okay, I've heard those submissions from PF and the PF sympathizers, but let's look at it from this angle. Miles Sampa was in PF. He decided to come out and lead a faction to which Kabimba and many others belonged. At that time, what was PF saying? This is UPND. This is UPND. This is UPND. Miles Sampa now has changed his mind. He has gone back, to PF, or declared that he's back in PF. Why didn't they discipline him for betrayal? If they're a serious party, why didn't they discipline him? During the time when I was the SG, would have taken disciplinary action against Miles Sampa for betraying the party. But what do? You saw them, he's back. They welcomed him with open arms. The person whom you claimed has betrayed the party, the ideals of the party, is being used, is actually a traitor from their allegations, has gone to another political party, according to you. He has come back now, and you just welcome him back like a prodigal son. Are you serious? Are you a political party that is serious? Are you sure you want cohesiveness and unity in your party? Do you want this party, to get people to India towards it? PF must put its house in order. They should stop blaming, others.
State Council, we have 11 months to go before the general elections. The UPND government was voted into government with the promise and hope of fixing the economy. As economic front, are you happy with what you're saying 11 months before the elections?
No. Like I said earlier, the question that we ask ourselves in the economic front is, if you are fixing the economy, the question is, whose economy is it? Whose economy is it? Okay? Andrew, the economy in a third world country must be the economy of the poor. It must deliver goods and services to the underprivileged, to the marginalized, to the dispossessed, to people that are going hungry in Kalingalinga, in Chawama, in Chiboria. The measure of the economy in a third world country would be how a poor person puts food on his table. Anything else is not an economy for the third world country. This is not the United States where issues of bread and butter have been resolved. It's a third world country where people are still dying from preventable diseases, where people are still drinking, unpotable water, where people are still going to hospitals where there are no drugs, where people can't afford food, just the basic food. Forget about the margarine, and the butter and whatever. They can't afford those things.
You think the UPND living in a bubble? Because according to them, they've done so much. Actually, they've scored a distinction. Over 90% of their campaign promises have been delivered. Do you think they're living in a bubble?
You know what I've said, Andrew? If you have done a good job, you shouldn't be the one to argue with the voters. Don't argue with the people. The people themselves will tell you. Immediately, you start saying, I have done the best for you, and the people are looking for you and they are quiet. Then check your development.
But on the other
check your achievements.
We've seen other stakeholders coming in. For example, today the president was visited by a team from the World Bank, and he was being commended for the work he's done, especially around the mines and bringing them back to life. Of course, there's more that is left to be desired, and that can be done, but he's being commended for this as well, from people who are observing outside the country.
Even the IMF actually commends President Hakainde Hichilema. In fact, the projection is that by the end of this year, our GDP would have grown by 6%.
There was a time when the World Bank and the IMF were praising Ghana as an epitome of a third world economy, which should be an example to everybody in Africa. Is Ghana any better today? The answer is no. The answer is no. Okay? So, I'm not a fan of these multilateral institutions.
Aren't we better today?
Because, sorry?
Aren't we any better today as a country?
You mean as a country? The answer is no. I've already said that we can only say that we are better off as a country, Andrew, if the poor of this country have been pulled out of the abyss of poverty. And their yardsticks to figure that out. We don't need the World Bank, to come and tell me that my uncle in the village is poor. I don't need the World Bank to say that to me. I don't need the IMF to say that to me. I can see in the village that my uncle is poor. I can see the people in Kalingalinga that they are poor. Do I need the World Bank to say that to me? No. I know what poverty is.
But don't you think the fundamentals are pointing in the right direction? That's yesterday fuel, just 2 days ago actually, fuel was dropped down. We've seen the prices of millimil getting down.
Yes.
Inflation I was telling you the last time I had an interview that millimil now is very expensive. We're buying millimil at over 400 kwacha.
Yes.
If you go to Counter Square, if you go to Mtendere, millimil now is at around 230, 245.
Yes.
And all these things, inflation now has dropped. The exchange rate is doing pretty well. Actually, projections are that we are the fastest growing economy, in Africa. With these projections, don't you think with time they'll trickle down to the people? For example, I'll demonstrate how. State Council Wynter Kabimba.
Go ahead.
If fuel is cheaper, if yesterday I was getting on a bus at 30 kwacha, and today fuel has been brought to 28 kwacha, that means that there's going to be an impact on how much I'm going to get on a bus tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll get on a bus at 15 kwacha.
Yes.
If I was buying millimil at 400 kwacha, and today I'm buying millimil at 200 kwacha, don't you think there's something that someone is doing for these issues to have gone down?
Nobody is arguing. I mean, even from a viewpoint of arithmetic, 250 is less than 400. Even just from arithmetic point of view. So nobody is saying that UPND is doing nothing. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, can we see what is being achieved, get down to improving the livelihood of the poor person out there? Not me. Not me. I'm not the yardstick of UPND's success story. No. The yardstick is the person in Chiboria who is still sleeping in a one-roomed, unventilated structure, who is still drinking unpotable water, who is still susceptible to cholera when the rains come. That is the person I'm talking about. So UPND's success story must give us the indices of these people, not the kwacha.
Where do you think the UPND government is really missing it in their economic structure to fix the economy?
Good question. You know where it is missing it? It is building a capitalist economy in the hope that a capitalist economy can deliver goods and services to the poor.
How?
Impossible. Okay? This evening, I was watching news on ZNBC, and you referred to a meeting between the World Bank president, World Bank rep, and the President HH. And here is what both of them said. The World Bank rep says, is happy that the reforms in the mining sector are yielding results. That copper output is going up, and this is going to turn around, the economy. The president said Yes, they will continue with these policy reforms. An example of Qatar. He says we want to be a monocultural economy using the mining sector. Okay? That was a conversation between the two. Now, I want to respectively disagree with both. Okay? And I'll start with this, World Bank rep. Firstly, it is not true that the mining industry, Andrew, can turn around this economy. Because the mining companies are here in Zambia for profit. They are not here because they love the Zambian people. Okay? They are here to maximize profit. And the way they are going about maximizing profit is they are bringing in heavy equipment. You have excavators now in the mining industry. One excavator that is doing a job for 150 people if you went by way of labor intensive methodology. But they don't want to employ 150 people because they will not maximize on the profit. So they go and get one excavator, which is $250,000, to come and replace 150 poor Zambians who are supposed to get jobs in the mines as laborers, not even as accountants. So I disagree with him. Secondly, I also disagree with him that there are meaningful reforms that have happened, that have taken place in the mining industry. If he wants, to see an economy, a mining economy, which has gone the way of reforms, he must go to Chile. Let him go to Chile, another third world country. Chile embarked 20 years ago, embarked on mining reform. There's a book which has been written by a guy called Dr. French. It's entitled Mining Reforms in Chile. You know what they have done? They made sure that they changed the taxation regime for the mining industry only. They made sure that they changed the accountancy, programs for the mining industry only. They have trained lawyers specialized in mining law because mining companies are the major culprits of tax evasion all over the world. And you can go to the 5 biggest mining countries in this country: Canada, Australia, Congo, Zambia, and Chile. 5. These are the biggest copper producing countries, not mining. These are 5 biggest copper producing countries in Zambia. 3 third world ones, 2 first world ones. Why is Canada so developed and yet it's a mining country like it? Why is Congo, which is even a bigger mining country than Australia, still poor? So I disagree with the boss from the World Bank. I also disagree with the president when he says that you can have a monocultural economy like Qatar, which has just depended on oil. The example is bad, and it's bad in this respect, that the oil producing countries have an organization called OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. They are a syndicate on their own. They determine the price of oil. They determine the production capacity of each country. If you remember last year, last year, President Trump, no, in fact it was in his first term, he had a quibble with the Saudi Arabia because he gave them instructions to cut down on their oil production. They disagreed with him. They defied him. And there's nothing that Trump could do. So, these determine the price of oil. Let me just finish.
Yeah.
Copper producing countries do not determine the price of copper. We don't peg the price of our own copper. That is done on the London Metal Exchange. So the example by the president is a bad example to explain this situation.
Well, we're going to pick 1 or 2 calls as we proceed, with the program. Chumaka earlier on said, we are slowly ticking before we get into the next general elections.
Yes.
You are a critical alliance partner, of the UPN.
I'm not critical. Oh, critical in the sense of...
Yes.
Okay, I see.
Don't you think, with the rate at which they are moving, it is technically political suicide for them to get into the next election without fixing this economy, considering the fact that they are voted in by the people on the premise of fixing this dead economy?
You know what is happening? The people are still hanging on to the UPND handbook of campaign promises. Okay? They are holding on to that like a Bible. And they are making reference to it every day. Okay? So, the UPND has to get back to that brochure and see how much they have done. Because that brochure is indelibly sitting in the minds of the voters of 2021 and the potential voters of 2026.
With that said, Mr. Kabimba, others see it from a different perspective, that even if these campaign promises will not be fulfilled and achieved, the president doesn't have a solid opposition candidate that would really give him a run for a presidency, that he will still go through despite not fulfilling certain campaign promises. What are your thoughts on this, especially looking at the current state of the opposition in this country following the demise of former President Edgar Lungu?
Well, let the dead rest in peace. Let's deal with the situation now. I have never seen an election in the world where a ruling party has been declared unopposed. Just show me one. Never in the history of any democracy would you have the ruling party declared unopposed. So there is always going to be some form of opposition. What that form of opposition will take, what form it will take in 2026, I have no idea. But I can tell you for certain that there will be an opposition. Okay? Secondly, the people determine the opposition. This argument was there in 1991. Okay? This argument was there in 1991. Who can remove Kaunda in this country? Impossible. Who can remove Kaunda in this country? Impossible. There's nobody that can remove KK. He was omnipotent. He was so powerful. Like King Lear in William Shakespeare. It only took a few months for MMD to emerge and defeat Kaunda with a landslide. So history is there. History is witness to that state of denialism that I listen to now. There's a history to this. You just need to go back to 1991.
Also, history, State Council Wynter Kabimba, shows us that there's no political party that has won an election that has served for one term. There's no, also that history teaches us that there's no party that was in government that bounces back into government. History also teaches us those two lessons. And so, surely, do you even think of it as a possibility that the UPND could serve one term?
It's not even a possibility, it's a probability. My mathematics teacher taught me that probability is higher than a possibility. It's actually a probability. Okay? It's a probability. Very high probability.
That they would serve one term?
Yes. Because if you look at it, you need 27 years, MMD 20 years,
PF 10 years.
PF 10 years. What's the next figure? 5. So that is possible.
Now,
that is very, very possible, Andrew.
You've highlighted quite a number of your concerns under the current leadership, especially regarding Zambia's economy.
Yeah.
After expressing your intention to join the UPND alliance, how much engagement do you have with President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND as a whole to make your submissions on what you think could better this country?
I speak to colleagues in the UPND. I'm not one of those people that believes that to make my voice heard, I must always run to the president. I'm not one of those people, Chimweka, that feel depressed and go around, whining that the president has not seen me. I've sent word to this one and this one. I'm not one of those people. So I use the channels which I can use, and there are a lot of colleagues in UPND that I speak to. I don't have to speak to the president. I don't have to meet the president. He's a very busy man.
Let's speak to Lawrence Mkwaya. Lawrence, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Good evening. How are you?
Very well. Hope you're well.
Fine, thank you. Chwek, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you doing, Lawrence?
I'm fine, thank you. State Council, how are you?
I'm fine, man. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. State Council, I have a question.
Yes, please.
There's a narrative that UPND are creating to say there's no opposition. Well, look at the issue of the PF. The matters are in court, and the court has judged it. The fact that those matters. And then the same people are saying there's no opposition. How can you say there's no opposition when you're holding the biggest opposition party hostage? The number two, when the World Bank praises you, who should praise the government? Is it the World Bank or we the Zambian people who have been subjected to 19 hours of load shedding? Companies are closing. People are losing jobs because of load shedding. When you came into government, the fuel pump price was at 15 kwacha per litre. Today, they raised that fuel pump price to 30 kwacha plus. They reduced it by 1 kwacha. Is that a reduction? Whatever Wynter Kabimba. That's not a reduction. When you came into government, fertilizer was 500 kwacha. Today, fertilizer is 1,000 plus. So what are they reducing? They are celebrating the exporting fertilizer. Here, our company, United Chemicals of Zambia, it has gone down. There's no production there. So who's benefiting that exportation of fertilizer when our own company, led by Kaunda, is out of our production?
Thanks, Lawrence. We'll have to give an opportunity for other people to come through. Thanks a lot, Lawrence. I will have to give an opportunity for other people to come through. Your quick reaction before we get 2 more calls.
In fact, Lawrence has reminded me one fact that of disagreement that I had with the World Bank rep when he said that the mining production has gone up, irrespective of
the energy
despite
crisis.
the energy crisis. That was not right. I don't think that the mining companies suffered the same load shedding that you and I suffered last year, if any. Okay? I tried to take time to call people on the Copper Belt and even in Karumbila. The mining companies did not suffer the 2-3 days 4 days load shedding that the average Zambian has suffered. So again, that was not just true. Okay, coming to Lawrence.
The reason for that, I was speaking to the chairman of ZESCO yesterday on the show. He told me that those are key priority areas that they cannot load shed.
Exactly.
And mines.
Exactly. So how can the World Bank, rep, then say to this nation, to this country, and the world at large, that the mining companies have performed very well despite, the load shedding? They didn't suffer any load shedding. So that's not correct. Okay? And this is a problem that Lawrence has. Why do you want to be praised by the World Bank and not your own people? Let's wait for the people to praise the UPND. And by people, Andrew, I mean the poor of this country. Not me. I can disagree with the UPND, I can agree with the UPND, but my view does not matter for as long as the majority of the Zambian population continue wallowing in abject poverty.
Don't you see that at the end of the tunnel? Just yesterday, President Hakainde Hichilema was commissioning 100 megawatts.
The day before yesterday.
The day before yesterday was commissioning 100 megawatts of solar plants in Chisamba, the largest in Zambia and one of the largest in Africa.
Look, it's all very well, to talk about, large this, small this, large this. It's all very well. And like I've said, I'm not saying that the HH is doing nothing. I'm not saying that the UPND is doing nothing.
Maybe let me ask this way before you answer that.
Yes, please.
Did you expect better from President Hakainde Hichilema in terms of fixing this economy and delivering to the economic fundamentals of this country?
In terms of his campaign promises, yes. In terms of what HH said when he was campaigning with those 2 sachets of cooking oil and the mini meal, yes.
So it's disappointed you?
Yes, and not only me. I'm sure many people.
But so
I am disappointed. Yes.
So when did this change? Because not so long ago, you made your intention, and I'm not sure if you're officially part of the UPND alliance, but you made your intention to join the UPND alliance.
Yes.
And you cited indicators that showed you that they were heading somewhere.
Fighting corruption.
But what has changed now? Because you're saying you're disappointed, but still you made your intention. So at what point did you get disappointed?
Chimweka, go to my text. The goodness with that press conference was that I actually read a written text.
And you said it was
I didn't want
a collective of the party, isn't it?
Yes, I didn't want to speak off the cuff. Okay, we cited one index in that one of the things that has endeared us to UPND is the fight against corruption. Okay? Not the general economic policy. But let me also say this. Even as we engage in this process of the alliance, I think we reserve the right to point out the weaknesses of our alliance partners. Okay? The view that we should have a linear thought process in the alliance is, in my view, dangerous. Not wrong, but dangerous. Because then it means we have no use to the alliance. We have no use to the UPND, which is in power.
The argument is, the general perception is that if you're going to join an alliance of this nature, is that you assume some sort of collective responsibility, just as it was if you'd have joined the party. That if you have your concerns, you bring them up internally. You don't have to bring them up publicly. And perhaps that's the expectation that those from the UPND alliance have of how you conduct and publicly speak.
Look, there are two aspects to every debate, every discussion. There are confidential issues and the issues that are part of the public discourse. Okay? I've never discussed publicly anything that I've discussed with the President Hakainde Hichilema. Never.
As a clause.
Okay? Never. But, let me finish, Andrew. But, these issues we are canvassing here, these are public debate issues. I don't have to go to community house at night like Faith Musonda to go and brief the president. I'm part. You invite me here because you want me to be part of the debate.
You give an example of senior members of the UPND who were not comfortable with Bill 7, by the way, but we don't see them going around on public platforms expressing their displeasure. They'll probably have those discussions internally, and perhaps that's what they expect from you as somebody who's shown intent to join the alliance.
No. UPND member. So I'm not bound to the operations of the UPND as a member. So that is different.
But as someone from the alliance.
What I'm saying is that if we are all going to form an alliance, Chimweka, and the agreement is that we must every okay, project that nothing is wrong inside there, that UPND is being directed by saints and angels, then we shall get nowhere. And for me, there will be no use for me to be part of the alliance.
In fact, just as we close, are you contemplating leaving this UPND alliance? Because you've told me and Chumaka here. You've told me and Chumaka.
Is the party actually in the alliance? Maybe we'll start from there.
You don't agree with the economic structure of the UPND and how they're running the economy. Don't you think it's going to be a betrayal to your conscience and to the millions of Zambians that believe in you, that you're going to support a party that can't deliver to the expectations of the people or have gone offside in terms of delivering what they promised?
Look, Andrew, I've been in alliances before. Okay? I've been in alliances before, so I understand the concept of an alliance. If you remember, we had an alliance between PF and UPND. And when we went to meetings, we held joint meetings, sometimes. And UPND would say one thing, and PF would say another thing. We had a convergence point. The convergence point was that we are going to fight an election together. Okay? So it's not a betrayal. It's not a betrayal to express an opinion, a view that is not in line with another alliance partner for Honorable Mirupi, MMD, Dr. Nevas Mumba, MDC, for Honorable Mutati. I don't consider it a betrayal.
Did you meet as Council of Presidents in the alliance?
I've never attended a meeting, or I've never been invited to any meeting.
Are you officially a member of this alliance? Because the last time we heard was that there was the intention, but from then we seemingly haven't heard much. Are you?
We are still engaged. Look, this is a process. This is a process that we want UPND to understand us. We're a political party. We have a manifesto. We believe in core activities. We believe in agriculture. We believe in health. We believe in education, and we believe in shelter. That these are the sector that will change the material well-being of a Zambian. Okay? So we have beliefs. We're not engaging in UPND, as a fringe alliance partner. We want to engage properly so that our participation in the alliance must make sense.
So
it must have meaning.
Officially, you're not yet in the alliance.
We are still engaging.
You know what?
In the discussion.
Council, Wynter Kabimba, for us, men, Chimweka, time is not our best alliance partner. We have to close the program today.
William Shakespeare says, time is man's enemy. So,
but we'd like to appreciate you so much for making the time to speak to the Zambians tonight and give your thoughts on what is happening in our beautiful country.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for inviting me. It's been a while since I was last here.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
Well, that was the voice of Economic Front President, State Council, Wynter Kabimba. We've been discussing quite a number of issues that pertain to our country. On behalf of the entire production crew, thanks so much for watching. My name is Andrew Mwanza.
My name is Jumwega Chileshe. Good night.
Good night.